So the three types of sperm donors at California Cryobank are...
What's up, fertility fam?
Let's get these babies, ladies. Hello, what's up, fertility fam? How are you? I hope you are well. Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't joined the fam yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hang out with us for a while, yeah? Today we are going to talk about the three different types of donor sperm. So I got my sperm from California Cryobank, so I'm talking about their types. I didn't research any other types. One of you asked me if all of the sperm donors were anonymous at California Cryobank, and they aren't. So I just wanted to go over, there's three different types. I know sometimes people think it's anonymous or known, and I myself referred to, like, when I had a known donor, that it was a known donor. However, when you go to the sperm bank, there are three different types. So there's an open, there's an anonymous, and there's a disclosure ID, and they each have different criteria. So I wanted to go over what those kind were. So if you don't have your tea yet, grab some tea, sis. Let's get started. Okay. Need my glasses for this. I printed out from the website because I don't want to misquote. So the three types of sperm donors at California Cryobank are open, anonymous, ID disclosure. Let's start with anonymous because I think that's what everyone is most familiar with. And I just did like a random calculation of each of them, each type. So just as reference, the majority of them are anonymous. 192 of all of the sperm donors that are available, 192 anonymous, open 69, and ID disclosure 136. There are a lot that are ID disclosure, a small amount that are open. So I think anonymous, let's start there. It's the most straightforward, right? It is what it sounds like. The donor is not known to you.
Or is it?
So here's what they say. Anonymous donors have not agreed to any contact with offspring, but they have not ruled out possible anonymous interaction in the future. So if you get an anonymous donor, it doesn't mean that your child will never get to speak with that person or that they have refused to have any interaction, which I think that's a common misunderstanding. I think people think anonymous means my child can never contact them. They'll never be able to, they don't want to. That's not the case. They just haven't explicitly agreed to. So there's options there. The second one, oh wait, before we go on. So those are the rules for the anonymous. Can the child, so having said that, can the child reach out to figure out if they can contact the donor? The answer is yes. So for California Cryobank, upon reaching the age of 18, any offspring may request additional information about his or her donor. Cryobank will make all reasonable efforts to supply this information either from our records or by attempting to contact the donor on the offspring's behalf. Neither a parent recipient nor donor may initiate any contact. So they leave it up to the child because it's the child's story at that point, right? So if the child wants to request information about his or her donor, they reach out to California Cryobank and they will make an attempt to connect them. The donor cannot say, hey, I want to know who my children are. The parent, the recipient, cannot say, hey, I want to know more information about this donor, my child's 18. The guidelines, the request must be made or should be made in writing, include the donor number, parent's name, and possibly other necessary information. So that's going to be important. You're going to want to hang on to the donor number for your child, irrespective of which type of donor you have. It's also good because California Cryobank will send out updates. Like I got an update about my donor that I had in 2017 saying that there was an issue that came up and they were notifying anyone who used that donor that that was a thing. So you want to keep it, and now I have two donor numbers, so I need to keep both numbers so I know which one actually created a child for me. So just FYI. So the next one we have is the open donor. Now, I was surprised because I thought open donor meant they're gonna know, like the child reaches 18, the child gets to reach out and they get to meet their father, or they get to like have a phone call with their father. It's not true. Open donors have agreed to a minimum of one communication with any offspring once he or she turns 18. So the guidelines, they say this contact remains anonymous. So it's open donor, but they're still anonymous. They've just agreed to contact. So the only difference between the open and the anonymous is that one has agreed explicitly and the other one has not. But the other one could agree later. The contact may include, but is not limited to, email, written letter, telephone conversation, or in-person meeting. Again, they don't have to reveal their identity, so they could see them face to face without saying like, I'm John Doe, I'm your father, because then you could later go and Google it, right? Or the child could later go and Google it. The form and extent of this communication will be determined by mutual agreement between the donor and the offspring. So once the offspring reaches the age of 18 or greater, the age of majority, there has to be something in writing. And so the clinic will reach out to the donor and say, this person is ready to talk to you. You agreed to one communication. How would you like to do that? And then they have to have it in writing. Most likely, most parties are going to want to have an attorney when you come up to the mutual agreement. I don't know that I would just be doing a boilerplate agreement. But if you feel safe, if the child feels safe, they can. It ultimately is going to depend on, I guess, like the financial standing of the donor. After they have this mutual agreement, the donor conceived adult should submit a contact request in writing to Cryobank, including the donor number and parent's name, as well as any other necessary information. Once it's all verified, Cryobank will contact the donor, informing him of the request. So that way there's not like a random person on the street trying to get information. Like if let's just say it's two guys for the sake of this conversation. If you're a guy and your boyfriend was conceived by donor sperm, you can't pretend to be your boyfriend to get the information. Like they're going to verify it all. Does that make sense? It says, we strive to make every donor offspring contact a meaningful one. However, there may be situations outside of our control that prevent donor offspring contact from occurring. So even though you have an open donor, it doesn't mean that they're not guaranteeing that you will ever be in touch with your donor as an offspring. They're going to make every attempt, but like contractually, if it doesn't happen, there's no recourse for you or for your parent who actually purchased the sperm and has the agreement. Okay, so the third one is ID disclosure. And this one is interesting. And again, there's 136 of these versus 192 of the anonymous. So there are quite a few men who have agreed to do this. ID disclosure donors have agreed to allow California Cryobank to release their identifying information to any offspring once they turn 18. This information may include donor's full name, donation location, last known address, or email. This is huge because you could pop this into like Ancestry, DNA, or 23andMe and find out your whole family tree. I mean, I guess technically you could do that anyway without consent, just spit in a little tube. But this will be easier for you. So I think, so here are the things for the ID disclosure donors. Offspring will be required to sign a non-disclosure agreement to not publicly share any of the donor's identifying or contact information with other offspring on message boards, social media, etc. So you can't go into like a Facebook group and be like, I'm offspring of donor 99999 and here's his name, right? Donors will be notified of the information requests and given 30 days to respond. So it's not like the child just puts in, the offspring just puts in like, I want to know who my father is, like what's his name, and it automatically, like California Cryobank doesn't automatically give you the information. They're going to contact the donor first. They give them 30 days. If the donor does not respond within 30 days, the identifying information will be provided to the offspring. Donor may request the donor may request an initial anonymous contact facilitate. I can't talk today. Donor may request an initial contact, anonymous contact initiated through Cryobank prior to his information being released. So he may want to make sure that person's not a weirdo or out to get something. So they would have an anonymous contact before giving out his full name, his address, his email, etc. California Cryobank reserves the right to deny access to the donor's identifying information if the offspring does not agree to the program guidelines as stated. So if they don't agree to not post it, they basically want to have legal recourse. If you violate the contract, they are going to sue you. You are going to have some sort of repercussions. So, and also the interesting thing, so requests for ID disclosure also follow all of the requirements or guidelines for open donor donors. So you have to verify the information, all that fun stuff. So having said all that, you can still do all that with the anonymous donor. The child, well, now the adult, the donor offspring, once they reach 18, can make a request in writing. The cryobank will contact the donor and see if they want to have contact, and then you kind of go from there. So it just basically, like, the expectation is with the open donor is that you will get one communication. The donor has committed to one communication, but again, the cryobank is not going to be held accountable if they can't, for whatever reason, help facilitate that one contact. And then there were some questions, so I wrote down a quick note. There were questions about pricing, like does one or the other cost more? So here's what I found, and I did 2 different searches. So I did a search for a blue-eyed man 5'8" to 5'11", and then I did a search for the category says Black or African American, same height, 5'8", 5'11", and here's what I found. So for anonymous IUI premium sperm for both of those categories, the price was $895 a vial. For open IUI premium for both of those, so for the Black African American category, there were no open donors. There were no, who agreed to one communication. For the blue-eyed person, it was $895, so it was the same price as the anonymous. Now, also for both of them, for the ID disclosure, IUI premium, $995 for each of them. So it seems like the clinic charges an extra $100. Maybe the recipient also gets an extra $100. It's not clear. And I want to say IUI premium, when I said that, it sounded like gasoline. Like, are you getting leaded? They don't even have unleaded anymore. Or they don't have leaded gas anymore. But back in the day, it would be like leaded, unleaded premium. So there's different kinds. There's the IUI premium, there's regular IUI, there's ICI, which is intracervical in case you're going to do it at home. There is also like IVF, which usually has a lower count. Like, my clinic wanted me to have the ICI premium, so that's what I got. And I believe I paid, it was either $895 or $995. That's just for the vials. I got 2 vials, and then there's additional charge. I think I got like 3 months of storage, then whatever shipping is. I didn't do not emergency shipping, but like overnight shipping, because it's still just sitting in a place over at Columbia, because we haven't gone to fertilization yet. But anyway, so those costs, those are something to think about when you get into like purchasing the sperm. There's always a sale somewhere, or they're always going to offer you some type of free storage. So just ask when you call. And then I think I talked about this before, like if you want to get the voice and all that, there's always some code somewhere on the internet. So either post it on Facebook or one of the TTC message boards, and someone will be able to get you a discount so that you can get like adult photographs if they're available, advanced genetic testing if it's available, the voice, like I can hear the voice of my donor with the whatever premium membership pass thing I have. So that is that on the different types of disclosures for donor sperm. I haven't seen any similar thing for the egg donor, which, yeah, it's not as advanced as donor sperm, and it's a little more touchy. I think there's a lot more legal ramifications because you're separating maternal rights. Contractually, there are some things that are put in place. No one is challenged. I haven't seen any challenges to any of these contracts yet, and I did do a little bit of searching, so there's not a lot of legal precedent. So we just hope that, our contracts, like everyone's word is their bond or their signature is their bond, and they uphold those. But we really won't know until it's tested. So I like to have all my paperwork in order and have, all the understandings in place. My egg donor, it is an anonymous thing. All of them are at Columbia. My sperm donor is anonymous as well. And so if my child, when he or she turns 18, would like to meet his or her donor or have a contact, can reach out to California Cryobank and start that process if that's something they're interested in. There are not a lot of studies on if donor conceived children always reach out to find out their biological parents or to have contact with their biological parents. There is quite a bit of information on adopted children reaching out. Like most of them, I think it's like 90-something%, want to have at least one contact with their biologicals, or they want to see a picture. Like they want to have some more information on them. So I think for me, I'm going to print out like the photos of the male donor just so the child has that. Again, I'm going to save the numbers. I don't have anything for the female donor other than she looks like one of the tennis sisters, Venus or Serena. And so I'll probably just save that file, like save the sheets that I got from the clinic and like put it in a folder. And, when I talk to the child about it. I mean, not right away, because I plan to talk to the child from day one about being loved so much that mommy made you from donor conceived samples, I guess, or cells. And so it'll always be a part of this child's life, but one day they'll want to know more and I'll have that file. Maybe not until they're 18, and I'll hand it over and say, like, if you are interested, here's what you can do. Or maybe 16 if they have an interest and they start saying, I really want to know. And I'll be like, you know, when you turn 18, you can, and I have the paperwork, and give that to them. Something, I'll figure it out. But I just think, you know, just to make sure that there's not a missing link, or they have some burning desire to know more and they don't. Like me, myself, I don't know my grandparents on either side, and I always am like curious of like, what do they look like? What did they do? I'll be able to hand down something to my child.
I mean, besides all the love that I'm gonna give.
You know, as far as like historical, biological data, I'll have something somewhere for them to start. If they desire, if they don't, they don't. But I think that just makes it easier instead of taking any choice away from them. All right, I will talk to you later. If you have any questions about this, please let me know down below. I'm happy to answer. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And yeah, let me know if you are thinking about donor sperm, if you found it, if you've gone to another bank and they have something totally different. I'm kind of curious. We can be so opinionated about these things, and I think it's a personal choice. I'm just curious to what choice you may have made for your future children. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Baby does to us all.